TVOT.
Thank you very much for coming to the emerging primacy of the app, the appification of TV and its implications. I think this will be a nice and relaxed environment here. We have a very sharp people here who are not just selected for their good looks, they're selected because they have brains too. In this industry, there are a lot of people who talk a lot about products here. These people have built products and launched things. I'm looking forward to hear what they have to say. This is round robin panel format. If anybody has a question anytime, please just make yourself known, raise your hand, do a jumping jack, whatever, so we can see you, get a microphone to you, and ask your question. We can play Stump the Panelists if you want. I'm sure that they can answer just about anything that you have in mind. Let me start with a few quick introductions. My name is Wes Williams. I'm the Director of Online Production at Scripps Networks. I work with the websites and affiliate sales on ITV projects for networks such as HGTV, Food Network, and Travel Channel. I also blog on ITVT.com. And then our panelists are seated in reverse alphabetical order because I'm at the end of the alphabet and I hate going last. So we'll start with Rochelle Zoffre. Don't you hate that your entire life having to be at the end? So you're first today. All right, so first we have Rochelle, Director of Content Strategy and Acquisition from Verizon Fios TV, home of many industry-leading widgets. Then we have Jasper Smith, CEO of PlayJam, all the way from London for us. Then Alan Queen, the CTO of Movil out of Atlanta, who's launched some very interesting apps. Okay, David McElhatton, got that right? Okay, from Active Video Networks, and thank you very much for coming up here. You came from LA, right? At the last minute? Okay, right. Home of Cloud TV. And then Dan Albritton from a company who's doing something that's a little bit different. Megaphone Labs has some very neat stuff with devices or apps that bring together the phones and television in a way that's a little different from other apps that you may have seen. So I'm going to be popping up topics that we've talked about. These were in the description, very lengthy description that was in the program. It would probably take an hour just to read you the description. We'll try to get through as many of the questions as we can. We'll grill everybody here and give them all a chance to talk about their products and what's worked for them, and so that you can hopefully walk away with some real-world examples of things here. So first I want to talk about where do TV apps sit in your strategy and how successful have your apps been, what's worked, really. So why don't we start on the end here with Rochelle.
Thanks. Okay, that's a good first question. So for Fios TV, we've had apps really since Fios TV's been around. We started with weather and traffic widgets, just a really easy one-click, get to some quick bites of data. So we've evolved over the years, over the last 5 years, and we really have 3 different categories for our different apps. So one is utility apps, which really is it's a retention tool. If somebody has it, they're really not going to want to switch out if they can't get that type of an app. If they're using it every day, they can't get it somewhere else. And it's also something that's really good for the brand. So for example, we have an AP News widget. So it's got AP branding on it. They really like it. It's a great way to get their name out there on the TV where there's somebody who doesn't have a TV channel. So there's three different types of apps. So the utility apps that we just talked about. The second kind is content immersion, and the third are revenue generating. And there's some overlap there, but the content immersion, a good example of that is Showtime has a boxing app where Saturday nights they have a big match, and you can play a trivia game. You get information on who's boxing when, all their past fight records, fun things that you can just get while you're watching the show. It's very engaging. It keeps people on Showtime. It keeps people from churning out of that premium subscription. So there's and NBC has done some similar things with the Olympics over the last couple of Olympics, where you can get information on who, the latest news on the Olympics, who's winning what medals, information about the different athletes. So these are types of things that really keep people on the channel. It's great for the network, because the longer you stay engaged on the network, the better your advertising dollars are. So and then the third one, revenue generating, which everybody likes to hear about, and I'm happy to say that I think this is really the first year where we've started getting significant amounts of money in from interactive apps. And there's the direct revenue for things such as HSN, Shop by Remote, but there's also revenue that's associated with more of our premium movies, so and premium sports packages. So if you have a regular subscription, you don't have a Showtime, you don't have HBO or Stars, there's apps out there that really entice you to upgrade your subscription. Click of the button, and now you have this movie package. And similar with the sports packages, a lot of people aren't really aware that you have these great sports packages. If you're a football fan, if you want to get every football game out there, there's widgets that provide stats around the different sports. You get an alert every time your favorite player does something great on TV, and then you can actually switch the channel when something is happening live on the red zone. So we found a lot of success with these applications that upsell different video products.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, next. There you go. We'll just go down the line here. All right, PlayJam.
Right. Okay.
Okay, I've got a couple of graphics too that you gave me too on your audience data.
Oh, well, thanks very much for coming. It's a very good audience. So PlayJam really does nothing other than create games for TV. I make that sound very simple. It's not always very simple. But it's been doing that for a long time, about 11 years. And during that 11 years, PlayJam's delivered around 7.5 billion game downloads. So we've got a tremendous amount of experience in that industry. I guess the thing that defines PlayJam over the last couple of years is that prior to that, the business served pay TV operators around the world with games. When we bought the business back a couple of years ago, we took a decision to completely close the operator side of the business down and focus just on OEM. So the business is really now formed 4 global partnerships that we believe give it huge distribution on new connected TV platforms. And this is just some of the data that's quite interesting. So there's nothing particularly remarkable about the gender split, because the games that PlayJam offers are very casual and social, and so that's pretty much tallies with everything else. But I think the things that are interesting, but one is the frequency of use. So 47% of the audience that use PlayJam come back every day. In TV terms, that's pretty remarkable. There are very few websites that get that sort of repeat traffic per day as well. So, TV has some very exciting components or elements about it that are very relevant to people that want to do games and things like that. The other thing that's quite interesting is the audience skews older, and that's partly because the technology that has been in these devices up until pretty recently has meant that the sort of quality of games that is deliverable has been inferior to the quality of games that you might find on a smartphone or on an iPad. I think the good news is that that's changing very, very quickly. So there's a sort of a complete monumental transformation underway in terms of the semiconductors. The silicon that's being used is now much faster. The memory that's being installed in devices. A basic Blu-ray player in the UK and many of the European territories now has circa 250 megs of storage on it. There's many that have half a gig. And many of these devices are now running things like Air 2.5 and Flash 10.1 and things like that. So, beginning to get an extremely rich and vibrant environment for games. So how successful have they been, I think was the second component of the question. We're driving an ARPU from games at the moment of around $5 a month. $5 varies by month, but about $5 a month. The lifetime value of a customer for us at the moment is about 8 months. So we think we can drive that ARPU significantly higher than that through a whole series of tools and things that we build into games. And we think we can increase the lifetime value of a customer to be much longer than the period that it currently is.
Jasper, quick question. Some of the information you sent also said that the average life of a new game is only about 2 weeks. So you've got high frequency, but does that mean you're having to just constantly churn out new games really that often?
Yeah, one of the reasons I bought PlayJam back, having sold it a few years ago, was that it had a huge library of games. It had about 500 games which were already made and built for TV. So, having been in the industry for a long period of time, we knew that the sort of lifespan of these games is pretty short. It's a bit like a TV program. If you put it on every day, the audience will decline very quickly. And so, through many years of being in this business, we learnt that games work best if they're swapped out and reversioned and played with, and new elements are added to them. So I can't remember what this data says actually.
Uniques by day, and it looks like uniques by month.
You can see how uniques effectively grow based on how content is swapped out. But this one is interesting here, and it just shows how how a game will die in its performance over time unless new things are done to it. And again, you can see all that happening on iPhone, iPad, and all those things. So there's nothing particularly alarming there. It's just that TV's appetite and consumers' expectation on TV seems to be significantly more aggressive than it is, on other devices.
All right, thank you. Next, Alan Queen from Mobile.
So Mobile is a early stage startup from Atlanta, Georgia, and we're focusing on building apps for smart TVs as well. But what we're doing is developing apps that all are controlled via your mobile device. And we literally just started a few months ago, and one of the first things we did was create an app for Samsung TVs, and we won an award from them at CES, which is really nice. And then we immediately took that to the Google TV platform, and people really responded to it. So what we do is we build these apps where multiple people can sit in the living room together and play a game together, a multiplayer game. So you might have, I think you're showing some slides here on screen, but we have like a Pictionary game where people draw on a mobile device and it appears on the TV in real time. We also have a poker game we're getting ready to release where all your cards are on your mobile device and you can place your bets and things like that. So what we're really focusing on is that experience that brings people together around the TV to collaborate in some sort of shared experience, whether it's games or whether it's a social video jukebox, which is another application we have. And like I said, for now we're focusing on Samsung and Google, but we're hoping to expand that out as time goes by. And then behind all of that, what we're doing is creating a platform that can enable other developers to do the same thing. So we hope to basically become the remote control for TV apps, and more than just changing channels, but actually interacting with the applications. And that's it.
Okay. Next, David from AVN.
Wes, I think if we could start with a video, that'd be a good intro.
Imagine being able to create an app once and have it go anywhere. Cloud TV by ITVT. The new app platform that's in the cloud. It goes anywhere. Coming soon to 10 million homes.
All right, now can you explain that?
Indeed, I can. Again, David McElhatton from ITVT. ITVT is the company behind Cloud TV. We deliver that experience from the cloud. We do it as the video said. We are doing it as the video said. We're deployed at Cablevision, Time Warner, select markets, many other trial deployments, as well as broadband connected TV, connected Blu-ray players. So that is the 10 million screens coming to you this year. So it in fact happens. And the whole key to that is, and I think as the video said, is we are writing the application once and we're deploying across many different boxes. And the way we do that is we build the application and it gets delivered from the cloud, and each individual device just has a simple little application that is understanding the key clicks, and then that is all going up to the network, and then the content's being delivered back down. So the advantage of that, obviously, whether it's a video on demand app, which we can deliver a much richer video on demand app than you could across many different boxes, or personalization. To me, personalization has always been the killer app out there. And at Cablevision, for example, we're delivering a personalized mosaic where I imagine that someday we'll replace the guide entirely, where you can completely have a broadcast mosaic of your favorite 9, 15, 18 different channels that you want delivered. Ultimately, that'll also be your favorite apps as well. So you can completely personalize on a per profile basis that kind of experience. But the efficiency that we offer by delivering from the cloud allows a reduction in CapEx. It allows for the ability to author that once. And I was here last year as a quick example, and I was talking to an operator, and they were lamenting the fact that their test cycle for applications was so significant because they had so many different boxes to go across. And this technology, this methodology, takes care of all that. So I'm happy to talk more in detail, but that's a quick introduction.
Are you guys doing it like OnLive does, where you render video on the server and then push the video down to the head end?
OnLive's doing it a little bit like we're doing it, yeah.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned operators. What about for consumers? Is there a way that you measure success with them too, or how do you do that?
Well, we have a complete monitoring and reporting. So we also have a full-on game network that we've deployed. So we have complete usage statistics across every single app and provide that back. We've also, on one series of applications, we've been able to register 99% of the people and have key demographic data. So as our software slips in next month, we'll be able to target ads directly based upon zip code, gender, and age group.
What gets them to provide that? Why would I want to provide my gender to a game on AVN?
Well, in the case of a game, it's you're playing tournament mode. So it also at some point in time, you have multiplayer pairing. So you want to play against someone else of a similar background or area or on the same block or same age group. You want to be able to at least win in one category.
And so in my household, can I have multiple accounts then? So my son can have one game account, my wife
Yes.
another, and so okay, great. All right, let's go ahead, Dan, and talk about Megaphone.
Hey, Wes, would you mind just opening our website real quick? There's a
Sure.
45-second video on there that actually, it's just megaphonelabs.com. Hey, I'm Dan Albritton from Megaphone Labs. While this is loading up, we're a little bit different from everybody else here. We provide apps to programmers. So if you are a local broadcaster with your own tower or you are a national cable provider, you actually buy apps from us and they run not in the user's customer equipment. Yeah, if you just want to hit play, that'd be great. This is an example from a local broadcast in the New York DMA. Do we have sound?
Congratulate last week's winner, Bob and Robin Orsak from Ossining. They've won now 3 times. I don't know what the trick is, but they know what it is.
They're watching. Lauren Scala, take it away.
Thanks to Marco. In just a moment, you'll be testing your trivia skills against thousands of other viewers across the New York area. You can play along by calling 855-384-8974, or you can now use your web browser to get in on the action from your home computer or one of those very fancy tech devices you own, like an iPad, an Android, or a touchscreen BlackBerry. You will have 10 seconds to choose your answer by selecting 1, 2, or 3 on your phone's keypad, or by clicking on 1, 2, or 3 on your browser. Now let's get the countdown clock started.
Start the clock, Dan, please.
With the Bronx Zoo Cobra in the news, today is all about famous and infamous animals we love. And keep in mind, you need to answer as quickly as possible because those speedy correct answers will up your score. Good luck. Let's see how many players we have. 2,700. You can keep joining in. We haven't started just yet. Even when we have, you can keep joining in.
So here's
Question 8. King Kong climbed which New York City landmark? The Chrysler Building, the RCA Building, which is now known as the GE Building, or 30 Rock, where I'm standing right now, or the Empire State Building? And the answer is 3, the Empire State Building. King Kong climbed the 102-story landmark. It is considered by the American Society of Civil Engineers to be one of the 7
look at this later. I don't want to take up too much time, but we're just different in that we are apps that you play live on TV. So our apps are actually launched in a computer that is in a broadcast control room. Could be at a national cable broadcaster out of one of their boxes, or from a local guy, just switching over as a video source. Wes has been kind enough to let us just throw up a couple of stats that we think are really important and interesting.
10 minutes ago.
Yeah, sorry. So this is sort of a little bit recent and somewhat proprietary information. So I know you're all tweeting it right now.
Don't tell anybody.
But 75% week-on-week player retention means everybody who plays this game, or most of our game experiences, 75% of them have played at least one time in the past, and there's lots of people who play every week. We get a 36% double opt-in response rate on SMS or web forms, which is like astronomical compared to regular SMS campaigns. And I just want to show you guys one thing that's really cool, because this is the TV of Tomorrow conference. It's a little washed out and hard to see. Can you guys see the chart that grows as a kind of a plateau? It's the number of simultaneous players in the game. Yeah, follow that plateau up. Cool, there we go. This game is capped at 2,000 simultaneous players because of the contract with this particular station. People know that the game will be full, so they call in before the commercial break, and then they stay on hold for 5 minutes. Like 43% of the audience stays on hold for the whole commercial break just to play our game. No prize, by the way. The only prize is, as you saw, you get your name announced as the winner. That will soon become an interactive live commercial break on TV, so we think that's going to be a world's first. But the really crazy part is actually 35 minutes earlier, she does the first tease of our program, and 4% of the audience stay on hold on their phone for 35 minutes just to play. Yeah, that's what Megaphone does.
Okay. Right. I noticed one interesting difference, especially among some of the way that you all approach this too. So, see, Dan, I think it's on your website. You all could reach 100 million users in the U.S.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right.
So,
because like anybody with a telephone, basically.
I wanted to play the order of magnitude game. So
Okay.
we launched in 100 million homes, but that's because we have no capex, right? So you guys have this like massive and interesting infrastructure that relates to hardware. Megaphone doesn't install anything at the broadcaster location or at the user's home, and therefore it's easy to deploy. So we have a partnership with the Weather Channel, and on a Monday they said, let's do this project, and 2 weeks later we were live in 103 million US homes.
But again, that's because you're basically bypassing the whole cable infrastructure and everything, really.
Yeah,
right?
we
Just
don't
put a computer in the station, right?
Exactly.
But in David's case here, with AVN reaching 10 million homes in that video, you're doing much more difficult things, really, by going through the whole cable infrastructure, right? So you've got a lot of other systems you have to work with, and you're doing this on the cable box as opposed to a phone.
I mean,
right?
I think our land speed record was last February getting the green light to do the Winter Olympics and having that deployed in 19 days across 3 million subs. So again, with inside the cable plant, but delivering from the cloud.
Yeah.
That's amazing, the cable plant.
But so then I can do those things with just a traditional remote control on digital set-top box, right?
Across any box in
so
that
you've got
network.
two very different ways of trying to reach out to viewers and create these apps for TV. So I just thought that was interesting. All right, now with the TV app strategy, I want to go back to the beginning here. Rochelle, if you could talk about who benefits from these apps, where is the revenue, and who are your customers at Fios TV?
Well, our customers are the #1 beneficiaries of these apps. I mean, the subscribers. I mean, we do it all. It's all about the customer, really. It's a great retention tool to keep them there. But you also have to look at the programmers. If you're going to be doing an app where you're being immersed into the content for the programmer, that's really to their advantage. And then the advertisers as well. If it's something that's going to keep people engaged in the content, staying and watching through the advertising. And then if there's an advertising app as well along with it, that's even better. What was the rest of the question?
Where's the revenue?
Where's the revenue? All right.
Show me the money.
The revenue, I mean, it's coming from a lot of different places right now. I mean, advertising is one. Upsell, I think I talked a little bit about that before. Upsell of the premium movie channels, the Stars, HBO, Showtime, and the upsell of the sports packages we've just seen a lot of uptake on those packages, and they're expensive packages. I mean, some of those sports packages are $139 for the season, and you sell one extra of those, and it's definitely some substantial revenue. And there's also games. We do have some very simple casual games on the system. $1.99 for a game. So
Is that I pay $1.99 and I have it forever then, or is it for a certain amount of time?
you have it forever.
Okay.
And we also have a lot of free games with advertising, and the advertising is really, again, upselling the video packages. We have a lot of video on demand, $4.99, $5.99 for an HD movie. So there's a lot of opportunity to really merchandise that type of content through these free games. And games in particular, there's a very small amount of very passionate people who play the games and will stay there and stay engaged for a long period of time. So we're definitely seeing that as a driver as well on the revenue side. But then, there's also, like I said before, the HSN, your Shop by Remote app, and we're looking at bringing some other shopping apps to the platform as well. I think there's a great opportunity when people are watching content that's relevant to different merchandise, to be able to have an interactive bug on the network at the time that is relevant, that people will click buy.
Okay. And I tossed your widget page up here. And so for things like Facebook or Kodak Gallery, do you make any money off of those, or is that just, here's a cool feature we want to offer Fios users so they love us and stay with us?
Those two are fun apps. I mean, that's Facebook we launched as one of the first apps really to seed the platform. When we started out, we have an SDK, so people can come in and build their own apps. So Facebook was one of the first ones we used to really just prove the platform, and we try to not just let you go in and see what your friends are doing, but we really try to pull it back into the programming so you can just click on one button and update your status to let everybody know what you're watching on television. So that's really popular, and I tend to do a lot of demos, and people are always asking me why I'm watching Oprah in the middle of the day. But it's a great way to engage and get the FiOS TV name out there. But for Facebook in particular, what we're really seeing, and this is definitely more of a retention tool, something fun for the subscriber to have. But the albums, the photo albums, if you're looking at, you're pulling your vacation pictures, your friends' vacation pictures into the largest screen in the house. They render beautifully on the television, so we see millions of photo albums being viewed, which keeps people with the system. And same with Kodak. It's people like to see themselves on TV, even if it's just through photo albums.
Okay. All right, Jasper, how about PlayJam? Who benefits from your apps, and where do you get your revenue?
So the easiest way of describing PlayJam, and I hate to use somebody else's company to describe it, but is Netflix. So effectively, PlayJam is an aggregator of games, and it has its own games and many third-party games. And so there are several beneficiaries. The first is when we partner with an OEM or a CE company like Samsung or Sony or LG, we effectively try and simplify the process for them of putting lots and lots of games on their platform. For the game developers, we offer a common API across many of those platforms from a tournament, leaderboards, and sort of back-end functionality point of view. And then from consumers, because it's a sort of Netflix-type experience, there's many, many types of games, and those games are all socially linked together with banner ads and chat and communication and all those sorts of things. So from a consumer's point of view, the reason you go to PlayJam is that it changes very frequently. It's a very dynamic service. It's editorially led. It changes 3 times a day to suit different audiences and things like that. So it's a pretty rich environment. In terms of revenues, we support a whole series of on-channel and off-channel revenue tools. So we do store value cards in things like Asia and Korea and Japan. PlayJam operates pretty much wherever the CE vendors are powerful. So, Samsung and LG obviously work in about 100 territories. We're not quite in 100 territories, but we're in quite a lot. So in territories where digital e-wallets and SMS and things like that is a complex billing mechanism, stored value cards work very well for us. We then use a whole series of digital systems for microtransactions, in-game purchases and things like that. And the models go from pay-per-play all the way through to subscription. And I quoted some of the ARPUs we're driving at the moment. And in terms of revenues, we see the opportunity for games as being pretty extraordinary on TV over the next few years. So, we're a relatively small company at the moment, but we see growth in the OEM market of around 200 million flat panel screens a year on a worldwide basis. The vast majority of those are becoming internet connectable, and the vast majority of those are now equipped, as I was saying earlier, with sufficient technology to run pretty decent games. So we see some of the companies like Samsung and LG in particular, who are not in the console market, beginning to try and plan how to create sort of more virtual game console type TV sets, and we're obviously fascinated by that. So we see, come back to the revenue point, the opportunity to drive the ARPUs from a single dollar a game transaction, which is what we charge today, to many dollars per game, and hopefully we'll get there.
So you're going both through traditional cable companies to distribute your apps and over the top to connect to TVs?
No, we had, when we bought the company back, I think we had 14 or 15 operator-based relationships with people like Dish and Sky in the UK and UPC and Dish India and a whole raft of others. And we, over the course of a year, closed all of those down and just decided, because the operator-based businesses are focused generally on trying to protect a legacy hardware technology, and the OEMs are focused on trying to innovate at a huge pace because they've got 2 product cycles per year. Our money was with them really, and so far it's been a great decision.
Okay, thanks. All right, about mobile. So who benefits? Where do you get your revenue, and where can we find it? Is it just in Samsung store right now, or where else?
Well, we're both in Samsung and on Google TV right now, but So Mobile is only a few months old, so we're definitely a pre-revenue, startup. Although we did win $200,000 from Samsung, does that count? So, but
that counts, yeah.
But the problem was we won it at CES in Vegas, so it's all gone now.
Still revenue.
But what our plans are, we develop applications for smart TVs, all controlled via mobile devices. So what we're trying to do is create a platform that allows other developers to build similar types of applications. So we provide all the plumbing and a service to connect the mobile devices to the TV and then to interact with it. And we're obviously going to try to monetize that. And one of the interesting things about that is that it works over 3G and not just Wi-Fi. So the reason for that is that we're looking at the idea of public spaces. So you walk into a bar, there's an app running on TV, and everyone can connect and collaborate together. So we have a social video jukebox that does that as well. So that's another side of it, and we're looking to take that even larger into stadiums as well. So we'll be building custom apps for our partners, as well as developing our own applications and trying to monetize those. And when we develop our own applications, we're definitely going to be looking at advertising revenue for those as well. And as far as who benefits from our applications, obviously we're building the platform for developers, and then of course the consumers benefit from the fun it is for playing our games around the TV with multiple players. And we also have it set up so you can actually connect TV to TV. So we could all be sitting here playing with one TV using our smartphones against another household with another TV as well.
Okay. How about Avian? Where do you get your revenue? Is it all from working with operators and programmers, or?
Well, we really have two different classes of business. We have the operator business, which has been our traditional business, and principally we make our money by making money for the operators, or in fact saving money for the operators. So I mentioned before significant reduction in CapEx, but also as we deliver video on demand and other revenue generating services, as they get an uptick in that revenue as a result of, for example, providing video on demand onto a whole host of legacy platforms that heretofore could not have that kind of capability. All of a sudden that just geometrically opens up the revenue possibilities. So within the operator space, we make money as we make or save money for the operator. Within our broadband connected device market, it's a little bit different. We're operating as the operator, and we provide content that has both subscription and microtransaction capability, and that then is shared with the other participants on the system.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, so Megaphone also has two sources of revenue. A lot of our stuff, when it comes to television, is oriented towards editorial. So producers of shows want to integrate interactivity into their shows, and if it's a news or a sports or a political show, they may not want to or may not be able to accept advertising for it, but they can see that it increases their ratings and therefore pays off what we have to do. So they add us as an expense, like they would, on a reporter or something like that. It's part of our revenue. Another part of it is pure advertising. A lot of what we do is advergaming on TV. We also do it in out of home. So stadiums, I think, are a good idea. Megaphone is live in 43 pro sports stadiums of the NFL, NHL, and NBA, and a handful of MLB teams also with Anheuser-Busch, which is one of our largest sponsors. So we're in New York and go see a Knicks or Rangers game. In any Knicks or Rangers game, you can actually play our stuff on the Jumbotron before it starts. And if you win, they'll put your face up there or something like that. But it's important to keep in mind that when you get into the realm of actual television and television production, there's so many strings attached to everything you might do. If you're working with a show, you suddenly discover that they have a car sponsor that's the official car of the show that you didn't know about, that conflicts with another agreement with somebody else had, and so you kind of get into a little bit of a minefield. So for us, obviously the opportunity is really big, but it's very easy to work with people who want just editorial tools because, of course, they're unencumbered by everything. So this upcoming political cycle, for instance, is pretty exciting for us.
So right now, a lot of these things are in many cases, kind of bolted onto TV, but as the audience grows and you've got that nice daily use that you showed us in those stats, does this become TV? Is this what the next phases of TV? Can you ever see this growing to be bigger than what TV is today?
Well, just different. I mean, I think Megaphone has to admit that, look, we are on-screen, in-a-program content. That just doesn't want to live everywhere. We make the example, some shows we love, take Mad Men. We don't want to add interactivity on screen to Mad Men. It's not a show that wants that. It's a very defined narrative visual experience. It doesn't want to have something bolted on. But your sports show, everybody wants to complain about the crappy call by the ref, right? So that wants to have something attached to it. I think for us, we don't view that. We view this as just the next evolution that, you know, people have been talking 20, 30 years. Basically, actually, since before we were born. My co-founder's here, but long before we were born, people have been talking about doing this, and you know, we actually decided to try to do it. But so I don't think it's going to replace it so much as, you know, we're in discussions with a number of studios right now that say we have 4 shows that are like a reality show or a game show, whatever they might be, that are currently being, you know, in production. How do we add a real-time interactive element? And so if we get in that early, it's not just bolted on; it's actually part of the show itself. So you'll see reality shows coming out that are instantly reactive to an audience, not, hey, we just voted online and you can see the results the next day.
You might find people at this conference who want to debate whether or not you should do an interactive version of Mad Men, too. There are probably some people who would want that here. You know,
if they'll pay, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the technology's there.
Rochelle, what do you think? You know, with my son who's 11, he thinks that if you can't pause a TV, that it's broken. Do you think in the future, you know, that people are going to think that if I don't have an interactive widget to go with this show or channel, that it's broken too?
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with Stan down there. It depends on the show. I mean, some things are really built for interactivity and others aren't. I mean, people have been watching television for hundreds of years? No, not hundreds of years. More than 20 or 30. And, you know, there was a panel earlier when they said 91% of television is still being viewed live, and a lot of people just want to come home and watch television, and that's all they want to do, and so they're really not interested in interacting. You know, as much as, you know, it's my business and I want to see people interacting, it really depends on the programming, and I think sports is, you know, that's really one of the ones that's always begging for some interactivity. But I do see it as just another, you know, something for another, it's a genre of its own. So sometimes you'll want to interact, and sometimes you're just happy to sit back and watch.
Okay. And Jesper, Play Jam is, in a way, competing then with regular TV programming because you're taking over that TV screen, right, for your games. So why are you trying to take food from my son's mouth? And do you see that these games, you know, will become so big that people are, or maybe they're already spending more time playing Play Jam games than actually watching TV on a TV screen?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I guess, you know, anyone who plays a console game is generally playing on TV anyway, so we really see no mismatch. You know, it's just an easier way to play casual games, social games on your TV than plugging in a console and doing things. And obviously the game experience is different, but the convenience is so acute. It's just one touch on a remote control and you're there. That the benefits for you know, many of us as casual gamers are significant. So no, we don't, you know, TV's, you know, always been about competing for eyeballs, and, you know, I think what's really interesting is that the combined volume of the top 4 CE manufacturers in the world annually is already greater than the total volume of consoles that are capable of playing, you know, current titles in the market today. So the volume that one can achieve through these relationships is, you know, is incredible.
Okay. What do you think from Mobile's perspective, Alan?
Well, I have a 4-year-old and a 17-year-old in my house, so it's a good, you know, case study. And, you know, both of them simply view the TV as just a larger screen. I mean, you know, cell phone, tablet, computer, TV. And the first thing they want to do on their TV is not browse through the guide. You know, they want to find a TV show on demand. They want to go to Netflix. They want to go to Hulu. They want to go to YouTube, and they want to play games. You know, so I mean, that's the kind of way I'm actually looking at this from our company's point of view. Is what can we use that screen for in a way that, you know, brings people together. It gives them more things to do, and TV is obviously, you know, the center and the hub around that. And I think that if we can do more things that interact with the TV and the signal and the content that's going on, I think that's, you know, kind of the holy grail for a lot of us, whether it's games, you know, interacting with content or not. And that's where I see the biggest difference between the smart TV and the traditional eBIF world is that, you know, smart TV is not aware, you know, of what's going on the TV, but eBIF is. So I think if it can get there, it'll open up that world. And I've completely gone away from the question, so gone off my own world. So I'll stop there.
Well, to pick up on your comment on the Holy Grail, to me, Holy Grail used to be content, and now there's so much content. I think the Holy Grail is getting access to that content. So the kind of applications that I see us doing and I see evolving in this sphere is, and not to displace live TV. Right now we have all these apps channels and apps portals and places to go that really aren't embedded in the live TV experience. But when you're at that, at the guide or or the personalized mosaic, by whatever method you're choosing that content, you're actively interested in that content. So it doesn't have to be during that content, but there needs to be an ability in that context to be able to drill down deeper. So if you want to get more content from that programmer specific to that channel, or for that content provider programmer to provide more branding and to direct you or tie in your social media, all of that in context, all of that within the experience of not having to go somewhere else and say, I'm going to do Facebook on my TV, or I'm going to go access some over-the-top content that's related to what I'm watching. So the ability to keep going and drill down and interact and socialize and mix, that's what I think is going to be happening, and that's the kind of thing that's easily done in the cloud.
Okay. Let me pause to see if anyone has a question out there. If you have one, raise question right over there.
Yeah, you mentioned that specifically you, but I guess I'll address this to all of you. You talked about having a very lightweight app on the remote or on the set-top box that just captures the clicks, and you do everything in the cloud. Do you find that latency is an issue, that you're limited to the kinds of things you can do because you're doing a round trip like that? And then I imagine it applies to all of you for scalability as well. I mean, you're going to clog the upload, aren't you?
Well, we haven't had issues with scalability. In fact, at one operator, we were operating close to 9,000 peak sessions, concurrent sessions. So that wasn't an issue. In terms of, what's more demanding than games, we're delivering game content right now, where at least on the casual game content side, we don't have any limits in terms of latency or bandwidth. There's probably a PS3 game out there that I suspect might suffer some from a latency standpoint that we wouldn't want to bring over to the platform. But in terms of the normal television experience, click, and typically under a second, or certainly well under a normal channel tune, it's not an issue. In fact, it's much faster than that, because games, even casual games, typically require in that 500 millisecond level to be considered responsive. So we could certainly talk further. I could show it to you. The latency is not an issue for this kind of experience.
About 100 milliseconds is where people start to feel that latency is bad on most game consoles. I mean, we are, by the way, we readily admit, we're one of the worst possible control mechanisms. We use a phone call, right? So it's really low tech, although the phone infrastructure has been around forever, so it's really fast. So our button presses will get there about 150 milliseconds. So you're playing our stuff, and we have a cool racing game. You can play it later on my laptop if you want to. You can actually drift a car around a corner pretty accurately on that. But we don't really pretend, because we're not local at all, right? We have a phone call that goes to a cell tower that bounces off AT&T in Kansas City, and then comes back to our data center in Washington, and then down to your TV. That's a long trip, and yet it's still, the whole thing's 170 milliseconds or something. So it's totally playable, but these guys are local, and they have it's just a different architecture. So we actually design for bad latency on purpose. And we make games that are designed to have a good lag. And that's part of the design challenge, but it's also part of the fun. If you put some of the constraints on there, it makes you have different types of games.
Just going to say on the FiOS side, it's all fiber optic, IP connected. So basically, if you have a FiOS TV subscription, all of your televisions are automatically turned into smart televisions because the IP connectivity is built into the set-top box. So there's nothing that you need to hook up or plug in. It's all part of the installation process. So when you call one of our apps, it goes out to the internet and brings it back. So it surprises me how fast it is, but there is no, latency is something that we're very concerned about, and we won't let anything out the door if it's not, a quick press and something pops up.
All right, other questions? Right there, sir. We're at the second row.
Quick question for Rochelle. Is your strategy, do you think of quantity when it comes to app rollout? And there's one part of my question. And the second question is, Have you had to take away apps, and what's been the response from the customers? If you have.
Yeah, so quantity, you're thinking we're going to be like an iPhone where there's 200,000 different apps out there at any one time.
I'm just curious if when you're looking at quality versus quantity, or are you looking at what's revenue generating or what's going to help retain customers? Just thinking strategically how you make those decisions.
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to be an iPhone where we have hundreds of thousands of apps out there. And when we look at bringing on a new app partner, we really look at how is this driving engagement with the programming, and that's really I'm on the content side of the business, so we're really looking to drive engagement. I mean, it's really about the programmers and giving them an outlet to make their programming more interactive on our platform, and it's a retention tool as well. But it's not about the quantity. It's how well does it fit in with our with the programming that we have on the service, and how well does it complement that.
Do you ever do apps for just a limited amount of time, or are they all pretty much meant to be evergreen and sit there forever?
It depends. If it's a seasonal app, something like the Olympics, that only comes up once every 2 years, so that'll come and go with the programming. We haven't actually retired any of the widgets that we have out there yet. Someday maybe we will, but so far, all the ones that we have out there, people have really been responding well to. Nobody's asked to, come off the platform, so we'll keep them out there as long as people are enjoying them.
All right. Other questions? Yes, all the way back. Sorry, could you say that one more time? I couldn't hear.
Will there be a secondary market for the game-related apps? Like you said, there is a new app for game. Consumer can buy it for, let's say, $199 and have it for the lifetime. So the gaming apps, which are, let's say, 8 months old, so will there be a market for those apps at, let's say, half the price?
Looking for a bargain? We haven't looked into that. I mean, we haven't done that yet. The original ones, I mean, the games that we have up there have been up there for maybe about a year now, and they're still at $1.99. We continue to add new ones, but we also continue to add subscribers to the service, so they're new to some people every day.
I mean, Apple is setting the standard for all of this, right? If you're developing a platform now, you look at Apple, a lot of what they're doing, for better or for worse, is the walled garden and monetization opportunities and all of that. I don't think you can sell somebody an old iPhone app. I couldn't see why, until somebody makes a compelling case why the industry standard should be different, it's going to go away from that. Certainly it's better for consumers if you could sell used ones, but it's a pain in the butt, and publishers and all of those guys don't want to deal with transferring licenses. I could hardly imagine that, like if you got the Fios platform, you don't want to be a secondary market for used apps. Trading them across devices would just be a nightmare, so.
Jasper at PlayJam, do you have a bargain basement for the apps that are way down there in that graph you showed us?
We do bundling and things, so we package zones and things like that are maybe second tier games and things, and that works pretty well. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the buy rate is, but it's probably 10-12% of the revenue that the company earns or something.
Do you guys do sales? Do you do like bundle all these together and you get the X discount, or do you do like this game's
seasonal
half price?
discounts and stuff like so if it's Christmas, there's a thing, or Easter or something like that. So there's all sorts of promotions, that and consumers are, as they always have been, very reactive to good retailing, So and that's what we see. We're a retailer basically of games on TV, and if you sell them well, if you bundle them well, if you discount them in the right way, if you link them to loyalty points and all those sorts of things, it works. It works well.
I mean, because your product life cycles are really cool, and you can measure that. You'd think that at some point you could say, the unit sales price of this thing has gotten low enough. We're going to cut the price in half and more than double the weekly sales, and it goes revenue up again.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I'm sure there are plenty of quants and MBAs who can come up with that formula for you. All right, with that, we are out of time. We're going to have to let them get the room ready for the next panel. Thank you very much to you all, and thank you, your panelists.
Thank you very much.
And have a great day.